audience that don't know, so you're an account manager at ZoomInfo today. Can you tell us like what does that actually entail? What does an account manager do?
Yeah. Well, an account manager, and just for context, like you and I we have the same position. You're an account manager as well. We actually started at the exact same time.
Yeah.
Which is, great. And it just happens, that we're buddies. So it just worked out like that. So it's nice to have somebody to kind of be like, complaining about a new role. Everybody that starts a new role, it's always like new things that, it's a whole other thing. You think you know a role because, I came from the account executive side, the new business side before, which we'll touch on, I'm sure, a little bit. But, to answer your question, like the account manager role is essentially like, best way I can explain it, is any software or not even software industries in general. Like when you're account manager, you manage a book of business, right? So ZoomInfo has a ton of clients, and we have a ton of account managers that handle a book of business. So you have a ton of clients, ton of customers that you are responsible for. And, specifically in the tech stack industry or the tech industry, we're responsible for them to renew, right? It's a renewal-based system where, not only are you just purchasing something, but you're kind of under contract. And so an account manager essentially kind of handles a checkbook, basically. You balance checkbooks. Like, hey, I need to have these accounts renew. You have quotas around like renewals, but you also want to land and expand, right? Land and expand essentially is just like, hey, you came to us for this reason, or maybe like two reasons, multiple pain points to solve in your organization, and like we can solve it, but we also can do this and also this and also this. So it's our responsibility to not only get them to renew and enjoy their product, but also to kind of expand within that account. So that's kind of like a 30,000 foot overview of what an account manager does day to day. Like, more specifically, a lot of emails, a lot of phone calls, a lot of Zoom meetings, and your occasional Slack, and occasional walking over to your buddy's office and complaining about random things.
Yeah, I'm glad you've explained this job because I think I've been doing the wrong thing the last 6 months, man.
It's funny because I probably realized or been able to figure out. I realized I figured out the job like a month ago. Like if you were to tell me like what do you do day to day, I'm like I'm just starting to figure this out.
Yeah.
And the best thing about tech is that everything changes and everything's so fast, especially our company. Everything's like a million miles per hour. The second you feel comfortable in a position, they're like, we're changing it all.
100%.
Everything's different. So
100%.
That's our life.
And like I can complain about it, but I also do like that aspect. Like you're not just doing like, I know in 10 years, like it's going to look a lot different. Like if I stick at this company for 10 years, it's not going to be the same job that I've been doing for the last 10 years.
No chance.
Things always change.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Yeah. And to be completely frank, like I don't think account manager is one of those jobs. Like I don't think that anyone growing up says, oh, mom, like when I grow up, I'm going to be an account manager, like at a freaking tech company. Like this is not unless you have another opinion on that.
Mom, I want to grow up and I want to sell software. The stuff that like, and not the software that like everyone uses, but the software that like only certain companies use. That's what I want to do. Said no child ever.
No,
absolutely.
No, it's not like if you open your catalog of jobs that your counselor in school is telling you should go for. That's not typically a job that people know about. But when you get into the industry, you kind of realize that it's a pretty legit job. Like I would, people work their full careers in this job, and they retire early in this job, and they get a nice house and nice cars, and establish a family off this job. So it's a very legitimate job that unless you're in the industry, you probably don't know about. And it's it's the reason we have podcasts like this, is to uncover this kind of stuff.
That's a really good point. Yeah. Like you don't know about like in the tech industry, that there's sales, right? Like at the end of the day, we're like in the sales org. So everybody knows that there's sales, but like when you grow up, you think sales is like just cold calling people and telling them to like,
Yeah.
or sales is like you watch it on TV, or nobody watches TV anymore. But like when you were small, you know, you watch like what was that guy named, like Billy Mays or something like
Oh
that?
my goodness, yeah, infomercials.
Yeah, or like the ShamWow guy. Like
Yep.
that's what a sales guy was. That's how. If you ask me, like, what does a sales guy do? He's like, he's on TV and he screams at you for a limited time, right? That's essentially what it is. And
I mean, it's essentially what we do. Just
and we do the same thing. So basically, we're ShamWow guys for software. So to think about it, I mean, it's not entirely different, but yeah, to your point, like nobody really knows account executive or account management. Nobody really. Do you know why? Because I feel like everybody that goes into sales is because they had no idea what they were going to do. To be honest.
Yeah.
Anybody that I know that is in sales, like that's because either college didn't work out or they didn't even go to college. Me. Or yeah, like I just that's my opinion. It's sales or real estate. I feel like those are the two.
I mean, real estate is kind of sales, right?
It basically is sales, but like in terms of like either go into like tech industry, which if you're thinking about going to real estate or tech, go into tech. Absolutely. Go into tech. It's so much better than real estate.
But no, anyways, back to account manager, back to no one really thinks about that growing up. I mean, there's lots of jobs like that. Like my buddy Dan was on my last podcast and he was talking about electrician is kind of the same thing. I mean, like as a kid, really, what do you think about? Like you think about the glamorous jobs, like, hey, I'm going to be an astronaut. I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a lawyer. Especially if you're Slavic. Like, I feel like that's
I'm going to be a singer.
I'm
going to be an actor.
Yeah, exactly. It's like those things too. Like it's all the glamorous stuff, but there's so much, and especially like the more that I kind of figure out this whole like career thing and job thing, the more you realize how many pieces really exist there to like make the thing work and function.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, like that's why that works that way. Or it's pretty interesting.
Dude, I honestly like the fact that I'm so happy I came across this job. Like,
yeah.
To be honest, because especially I know it's like only in a specific industry, like, but you get like from the sales side, from like managing accounts, in my company specifically, in our company specifically, we have so many different customers.
Yeah.
From every single industry and vertical, and we talk to them, work with them. We need to know the ins and outs to be good at our job, to be a good account manager. You need to know how their business works, how they go to market, from a sales perspective, marketing perspective, like to have at least a basic understanding. And to have a basic understanding, and the reason why you need to know that in the first place is because like that helps you not only like support them in terms of like, hey, you actually should be using our platform this way, or you should be doing this way, but also just like being able to know what to pitch and what to sell, right? Same thing on the new business side of things, right? If you have a basic understanding of how specific organizations work, nonprofit, insurance companies, financial, like I learned all of that just by asking people questions. Yeah. I would have never learned this in a million years from any other job. I would have to literally like just talk to people that are from these companies. And I'm Russian. Everybody that I know is basically construction or siding or works at or a nurse or a doctor. Not a lot of doctors, let's be honest.
Nah.
Nurses. So like I know how I know how those roles are. Yeah. I know everything about them, but like in terms of like insurance, finance, whatever, like those sectors, those verticals, like now I know that, and it's super interesting because then, you just have a better understanding of pretty much everything in terms of, the economy and like what role like certain industries like work
in. Play in that, yeah.
Yeah, so it's really cool. Like
it's it's like even this last couple of years, like one of the things that I'm sure you came across at ZimInfo as well, like COVID obviously happened, and all of a sudden you have to wear face masks everywhere you go, and you just see face masks appear. How many businesses did you talk to that like literally started because of COVID to sell masks, or like shifted their like main focus to sell masks. And like all this background stuff that you don't think about that's happening in real time. Like a lot of my customers are in the transportation business, and like all you do is you go to the store and you see food on the shelves. How did it get there? Like there's so much background stuff that you never learn about.
Yeah.
And especially people like growing up, they push you to careers and jobs that they know about. But there's such a vast world out there.
Dude, and how much money you can
Oh
make
man.
in the most smallest of
Oh man.
niches. It's crazy.